Tell me, what are some of your favorite TV shows?
All right, I watch a lot of TV, so I have a lot of favorites. Probably the Love and Hip Hop franchise, which is great because there's like 3 different shows and they run them back to back throughout the year. So every week there's some kind of Love and Hip Hop thing happening. So that's probably like one of my favorites. It's trash, but it's entertaining. And then I really like I watch Scandal, which is, it's a good show, but it's not as good as it used to be. I'm trying to think like actual good television that I watch. I really like Mr. Robot, and I like Westworld, and what else do I really like? Both those shows aren't really on most of the year. What else do I watch? I watch a lot of like sitcoms too. So like The Mindy Project, Blackish, Atlanta, Insecure. The list goes on, to be honest, so I'm gonna stop there.
How long have you been watching Love and Hip Hop? Are you one of those watchers, those viewers who've been like watching from the start?
Yeah, so I think I caught on to Love and Hip Hop. My friend was telling me about the first season of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, which is the second franchise in the Love and Hip Hop trilogy. And so I think I like caught up with the first season of that pretty quickly and then just have been watching ever since. And then I went back and watched like the old episodes of Love and Hip Hop New York. And then when Love and Hip Hop Hollywood started, I started watching that too. It's horrible. It's really horrible, but I enjoy it.
You have no shame. Do you feel guilty at all that you love these shows?
Yes, a little bit. Because sometimes I think that some things that happen on the show are like, because people like to say that these shows are fake, and some of it is kind of staged, but there's some characters are dealing with like alcoholism and things like that, or some of the characters, like they kind of touch on the fact that they've been abused in the past, or they're in relationships that are abusive, or, yeah. So I feel like sometimes it really does touch on real things, and sometimes I do feel like, I don't necessarily know if I feel guilty as much as I feel like the people who produce this show should intervene. Like this, not everything is for the cameras, and not everything should be on TV. So actually, yes, sometimes when they're showing someone who is like an alcoholic and they're like drunk and like falling on the street, I'm just kind of like, I shouldn't be watching this. No one should be watching this. This is like such a private, sad moment. But I keep watching.
Can you think of a season where they showed something that had a deeper meaning and that you really appreciated?
Yes, I can think of a couple. So one situation, like I said, the show is, a lot of it is scripted, but sometimes, at least one time, like one of the characters went to jail. Actually, a couple times, but, and like obviously that's not scripted. And so there was like a season where it was in New York, and one of the characters, her name is Yandy, and she's married, although it turned out it was a fake marriage, but that's another issue altogether. She's married to this man named Mendices, and he gets locked up for money laundering, basically. They're not clear about it on the show, but if you read like the news, it's money laundering. But they did talk a lot about like the impact of jail on a family and how being separated from your husband and wife can be such a difficult thing. So actually, and so that same season, Remy Ma came on the show, and she had just gotten out of jail. She's a rapper, she just got out of jail. And so she kind of could talk to like the fact that like being separated from her family for that many years, and like how the people that she met in prison like became some of her closest friends, and how like it's hard for her to readjust to society. So that was like very real, and I think it was like something that like, it was maybe like a small piece of like education that I got from Love and Hip Hop, because I don't think I would have gotten that experience otherwise.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you think that Love and Hip Hop is capable of producing moments like these, or was that just like an aberration?
Not often. I think that it's designed to be entertaining, to be funny, to be like scandalous, and I could see a lot of people who would think that like those elements, when they touch on those things that are so like sad and deep, are a little bit boring. Like I could assume that the producers would be like, this isn't good television, even though it's probably actually great television, but just not for the purpose of Love and Hip Hop.
What's your favorite season?
Season? Or like city?
Your city, yeah, there you go.
Atlanta, because they're crazy. Like I was telling my friend, we talk about Love and Hip Hop a lot, and about how each show kind of mirrors the city it's in. So Love and Hip Hop Hollywood is very fake, Like of all of them, is probably the one with the fakest drama, which matches kind of like the Hollywood reputation. New York is probably the realest in that like I think there's like the most like real world consequences. Probably like the biggest fights and like the most anger is in New York. Like that's the one where I'm almost like this isn't for television. Atlanta, which I think has like kind of like a Atlanta already has kind of like a quirky or like wild reputation. And so do the people on that show. They're the biggest personalities, the strangest situations, the funniest for sure, the most out there. So that's my favorite because it's the most entertaining. The other ones can get boring sometimes.
Gotcha. So you said that there's different seasons, different cities all within like the same season.
Mm-hmm.
How many are going on right now?
Oh, so no, the way it works, is that like each city has its own like, so it's like 3 different shows basically. So there's like Hollywood and it's just all Hollywood, and Atlanta is all Atlanta. But they have them so that like the week that Hollywood ends, the next week it's like the ad for New York. But sometimes the characters do overlap, which is the fakest the show gets. Because all of a sudden it's like, oh, I met this girl and I saw her at the club and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it's like the girl from the other show, like, we know what happened here. Don't fool us. Or don't try to fool us. But yeah, I'm sorry, I think I missed your question.
No, that was it.
Okay.
That was it. Wait, one more question. How many hours a week do you devote to Love and Hip Hop?
Just 1, because there's only 1 hour. But if I were to be like, catching up on a season, more. But I try to keep it, I have things to do, I have work to do,
All right, thank you.